Hello friend, this video is the part 2 of the microservice architecture tutorial. In part 1, we have discussed about monolithic and microservice architecture and their advantages and disadvantages in depth. If you have not seen that video, then please go ahead and watch that video first and then continue with this video. You can find the link of first part of this tutorial in the description below. Before moving forward, I would like to request you to please subscribe this channel. Your one subscription is a big motivation for me. In this video, we will create a simple application using Spring Boot from scratch. So what is Spring Boot? Spring Boot is an open source micro framework maintained by a company called Pivotal. It provides Java developers with a platform to get started with an auto-configurable production-grade Spring application. Spring Boot offers a fast way to build applications. It looks at your class path, at the beans you have configured, makes reasonable assumption about what you are missing, and adds those items. With Spring Boot, you can focus more on business features and less on infrastructure. Let's see the feature of Spring Boot. So Spring Boot is to create a standalone Spring application. In Spring Boot, we don't have to deploy war files separately to the web container like Tomcat, Jetty, or Underdog. We can directly embed these web containers into Spring Boot, and Spring Boot comes by default also with Tomcat. It provides opinionated starter dependency to simplify your build configuration. It's very easy in Spring Boot to add these health checks using Spring Boot actuators. Absolutely no code generation, no requirement for XML configuration. Mostly in Spring Boot, everything is Java classes. We don't have to configure anything in XML. So what next? We will create a RESTful web service using Spring Boot, and there we will understand the contents in pom.xml, and we will try to understand these Spring annotations like @Spring Boot application, @REST controller, what is get mapping, what is request mapping, service mapping, and what is auto add annotation. Then we will create a model class for a student, and we will create a web service which will return student details in a JSON format. So guys, let's start our first Spring Boot application from scratch. For that, Java should be installed in your system, and Maven should also be installed in your system. And I'm going to use Spring Tool Suites for the IDE development. So here from this website, you can download your Spring Tool Suites. It's recommended. You can use directly in Eclipse also, in plain Eclipse also, or you can use IntelliJ IDE as well. But the recommended is Spring Tool Suites. If you are using, then it's very easy for the Spring Boot development. You can download from here. For the Spring Boot starter project, the best place is Spring Initializer. Just go to your browser and type Spring. It will show you this website. Go here, and this is the place. These are the versions, and here these are the project metadata. From here you can choose your Java version. Okay, so I'll choose Maven project. I'll choose language as Java. Spring Boot I'll keep 2.5.2. Here I will change some project metadata like com.code. Artifact I will keep like Spring Boot. This will be a name of your project, and let the description be like this. It's okay. So this is the packaging way. What you want, jar or var? Then Java, I'll choose Java 8 because I have Java 8 installed. From here we can add dependency whatever we want. So for now we are going to create a RESTful web service. So for that we need a dependency Spring Web. You can see here it's written Spring Web dependency is useful for building web including RESTful application using Spring MVC, uses Apache Tomcat as the default embedded container. So if we use this dependency, then Apache Tomcat web container is already embedded to this Spring Boot application. We'll click here. So here you see it's added. Now we just have to do generate. Then it will download this project, and we'll download here, same place. Okay. Let's go here. Let's unzip this. Same place. Okay, here it is. Now we have to open our Spring tool suites and import project. We will choose Maven, existing Maven project. Then select the location where it was, desktop, project, Spring Boot. Spring Boot, we have to go till the place where .pom.xml file is there. And then we found the pom.xml, click finish. Then if internet is connected to your laptop, then it will download all the dependencies to your project. Once this download is finished, then you will see a proper folder structure here. Let it finished, 12%. Okay, now it's finished. We'll open this one. So this is the project structure for this application, for any Spring Boot application. This is the Java and this resource file here. If we are going to create MVC project, then here we keep our static files, our HTML pages and all, but for now that's not required. This is application.properties. Here we keep some property related things like database configuration things, or if you want to give some port number, we can provide here. We can give application name here itself. These things we will see in coming videos. For now, not required anything. And this is the pom.xml. So let's see what is inside. Pom.xml, you see here, Spring Boot starter parent. So this is first the parent dependency, which is coming default in Spring Boot application, and this includes a lot of things inside. Here we whatever we set there, group ID, artifact ID, version, name and all. Java we are using version 8, and this is the dependency for creating RESTful web services. This is for Spring Boot test application. So it's all about pom.xml. Let's go to Spring Boot application.java. Okay, so this Spring Boot initializer provides as well main method class. So here you see for any Java application we need a main method from where it starts. So Spring initializer also provides one starting class annotated with @Spring Boot application. I'll keep it shorter. So Spring Boot application annotation is a convenience annotation that adds following annotation under the hood. If we hover on that, we can see these are the annotation it is already having with it. So first annotation is @configuration, Spring Boot configuration. So this annotation tags the class as a source of bean definition for the application context. Meaning if we want to add any beans, we need to annotate that class with @configuration. Second is enable auto configuration. This tells Spring Boot to start adding beans based on class path settings, other beans and other property settings. For example, if a Spring Web MVC is on the class path, then this annotation enables the application as web application and activates key behaviors such as setting up a dispatcher servlet and all. Third is component scan. This annotation tells the Spring to look for the components, configuration, and services in com.code package. So after com.code package, whichever package will come, it will scan in all those things. So we don't have to worry about these annotation like @Spring Boot configuration, auto configuration, and component. Now let's add a model class here for a student. We'll add a class. So package name we will say com.code.model. This we will keep student finish, and then here we will add few properties like ID of a student, name of a student, and we'll keep mobile number. Let's generate the getter and setter. That's it. Now we will add service layer where we will write our business logic. So let me quickly add interface. I'll keep the package name com.code.service, and class interface name will be student service. Click finish. Here we'll define three method. First will be like get by ID, and we'll pass ID here, integer ID. The response will be student object. Second method we will use for get by name. Get by name. Here we will pass name, and the response would be student object. Third, we will use for saving student details. We are not using any database. We will just print the data on the console, for example. So it will be save, and parameters will be student object, say it is student, and here response we can just say like boolean response, true or false. Okay, we'll save it, and then we will create an implementation for this service, for this interface. We'll create a implementation package com.code.service.impl, and we'll create student service impl. Here I'll implement student service, and then we'll add all unimplemented method. So what I am trying to do here, in this method as a param we are getting ID. So we'll generate a student object for this ID and return that student object. Okay. So we'll say use student, we'll say s equal new student. We'll just set the same ID, set ID, whatever ID is coming, and then s dot set name. We will create a dummy name appending with same ID. Okay, like this, and s dot set mobile number. Mobile number will keep any default number like 11111111. Okay, and we will return the same object. Yes. Here we are done. For this get by name, what we are trying to do, we will return with the same name, and we'll add any random ID like a student as equal new student. Here we created an instance of a student, then s dot set id. We'll just set 2 and s dot set name. We'll set the same name whatever coming in the request, and for mobile set mobile, we'll set the mobile number like 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. Okay, and we'll return the same object. Yes. Okay, so this business logic is done for the get name. So for this save method, what we will do, we will take all the data from a student object and we will write on the console. So I'll use system out.println, and here I'll use id student. I'll just copy this, then I'll say dot get id, then name dot get name, mobile number, okay. So this is done. Now to make this as a service class, as a service layer, we need to annotate this class with @service annotation. Okay, so this class is from this package or dot spring framework dot stereotype dot service. So we add @service annotation to the class to indicate that they are holding the business logic, and we should always separate the service layer from controller. So now our service layer is also ready. Now we will write a controller from where we will access this service class. So let's add the controller here. I'll add class. I'll write student controller. We'll keep the package name com.code.controller. Click finish, and here is our controller. Now for controller, let me write all the codes first and then I will explain. Now I have added code to the student controller. Now let's understand these annotations. First annotation is underscore REST controller. In Spring approach to building RESTful web services, HTTP requests are handled by a controller. These components are identified by the underscore REST controller annotation. That means whichever class is annotated by REST controller, that class would be able to take HTTP request. Next annotation is underscore request mapping. This annotation is useful for the mapping of the URL to the controller or to any method. So here /student, that means any HTTP request having /student after base URL will land on this controller or will be handled by this controller. Another annotation is get mapping. Get mapping annotation ensures that HTTP GET requests to /id are mapped to the get by ID method for this controller. We use post mapping for creating any record in database with post body. So whichever method is annotated with post mapping, that will accept HTTP post requests. In the same way, we use put mapping for mapping HTTP put request onto a specific handler method, and delete mapping annotation for mapping HTTP delete request onto a specific handler method. And we use @patch mapping as well for annotation for mapping HTTP patch requests onto a specific handler method. Instead of using get mapping, post mapping, delete mapping, patch mapping, we can use a generic request annotation @request mapping. And there we can specify request method get, post, put, and delete. And this value equal /name is useful for the URL mapping. Till now we added a student controller, a student model, service implementation, and here is the main class. Now let's start the Spring Boot application and see how it goes. To start the Spring Boot application, go to the Spring Boot project, run as, and Spring Boot app. Let me make it little bigger. Okay, here you see it is saying started Spring Boot in 3.823 second and it is running on 8080 port. If you want to change it, you can change it through from here. You can change the port number from here. Okay, anyways, let it run on 8080. So what we have to do, we have to access this service through browser. Let's go to browser. We'll type localhost 8080. Sorry, our this is running on 8080 student, and then slash id question mark id. I'll keep id 1. Okay, let's run this. Okay, there is some error, so let's see what's the error. Okay, so the problem is here. Our main class Spring Boot application is in the package com.code.springboot. This annotation Spring Boot application has under @component scan annotation, which scans all the controller services and component from the base package and to the sub package. But since it is in a different packaging and all our controllers and services are in different package, that's why it is not able to find the controller. So to fix this issue, either we can downgrade this to the parent level, or we can add the @component scan explicitly. Component scan com.code. So now we are explicitly telling that start scanning all the components, all the service classes from the package com.code. Now again, let's stop the server and restart it again. Run as component boot app. Okay. Now it's started. Let's go to the browser, hit the same thing again, and here we go. You got the result as ID1, name _1, and this is the mobile number. This is what we are doing there. You see, when we hit that one, it hits this method and it went to the service. Here it appended the ID to name _ and then it returns the value. Similarly, we can do for name as well. Change this one, name, and add any name like Dinesh. Okay, we got Dinesh. So our both get mapping and this request mapping both are working. Now to post mapping, since it requires a post body, and here you see there is a post body. So here @request body, it maps the request post body to the student object. Here we can provide this feature required equal true or false. If it is required equal true, then this object must present in the request body. Okay, so since we cannot send the request body from browser, I'll use Postman for that. So I have already this one. Okay, so I want to save this one. So let's save this 11 Dinesh and mobile number this. Let's hit this one. Sorry, the port is wrong. So let's change the port to 8080. Hit again. We got true. And what we were doing here, we were trying to print. Now see here, it's printing the value. Okay, there is something wrong here. No issue. We'll again let's try something else like Ramesh, and here change this. I think wrong mobile number and hit again. True. Let's see the response. Here we go. So our post body also working. All three methods are working. Here you see in request param, value ID default value 1, If you are not providing any ID, then it will take default as 1. That's all guys for this video. In next video, I will create our first microservice student. Please like and share this video and don't forget to subscribe this channel. Click on bell button to get notification for upcoming videos. Thanks.